So nice to see all of you. The future possibilities of light. We look at ourselves and we have a collective awareness that has been formulated and reveals us as if we are at the pinnacle of civilized advancement. Our history, as it has been portrayed, shows us to be, on one hand, only around for a few thousand years, but then other histories of us show us that we've been around for thousands of years, even hundreds of thousands of years. What we get as an idea of who we are, based on who we have been, in many ways is very sketchy. Some of it is by the mere fact that the ancient civilizations that preceded us, records of them have disappeared. But then some of the ancient civilizations, records of them still exist. While I'm going to touch upon a few of them, the reason that I'm doing this is I would like for you to start getting a feeling of going back in time with the considerations of who we have been before, what we've learned, perhaps what we've forgotten, or perhaps to look at it from a little different perspective of who we can become from what we have learned and what has been given to us as a greater wisdom. So in this, get a feel for moving in time. You see, every time we think about the past or every time we think about the future, we're actually moving. Well, if we get into some of these timelines and start picking up on what did happen, and then entering into the future with the possibilities of what can happen, we start attuning ourselves to these possibilities. Now, I know for some of you, wow, that's just completely out of the question. After all you do is look at your science book and it'll tell you we are at the pinnacle of our comprehension scientifically. Look at the technologies that we have. Yes, and many of them, look at the way that they're being used to distract us. So you have a number of ways of looking at this. Let's go back and just touch upon some of these civilizations. Lemuria. I'm sure some of you have heard of this. And it apparently existed a mere 78,000 years ago. Wow. What does that say to the 6,000 years? Kind of sheds a different light on a different kind of history. Now, this was supposed to be one of the first of civilizations. And the amazing thing about it is that it lasted for 52,000 years. The United States of America is touting its presence based on a few hundred years and is already showing signs of cracking and falling apart. If you take this into account, you may wonder, what was it that these people had that kept them cohesively together for so long? Apparently, there was one language and one government. Education was the keynote to this empire's success because every citizen was versed in the laws of the universe and was given thorough training in what profession of trade they chose to be involved in. And then it sunk into the sea. It made a big hole which the waters of the earth filled in, and then allowed other land masses to appear. Like in the Atlantic, there were only just a few islands there, but then when all this water started flowing into this Pacific hole, then up pops another civilization. We come to know this as Atlantis, but its real name was Poseidon. It was, of course, one that had really advanced technology, and supposedly technology far superior to the technology that we have today. Now, these are two that we know some about, or have at least heard about, or look at as being the ones that preceded us. But there were many others, and this is one that I'm bringing up now, that the Rama Empire of India actually has written records of it, and it existed several thousand years before it was discovered by others who then came in and invaded it. There also was another civilization in the Mediterranean before it became the ocean, and it was called the Osirian civilization. Just get a feel for this now in your moving. Now here we are tapping into peoples that preceded us, who had advanced ways of living. Their buildings, they were built with stones that measured in the hundreds of tons. And they were there with the intention of long lasting. You get an idea of this, then you get a feel for these people intended on being here for quite a while. Now, this Osirian civilization, when Atlantis was destroyed, this Mediterranean valley then began to fill in with water. It's known that there are hundreds of cities that still exist under the Mediterranean Sea that show signs of being far in advance of what we have today. Now, the Egyptian civilization, of which we have the Great Pyramids to show, and then also the Minoan and the Mycenaean of Crete and Greece, the remnants, these are really just remnants of this preceding civilization. Now, start, if you haven't already, giving yourself a chance to at least entertain the possibilities of us being here prior to being here now, as a kind, and perhaps even as individuals. If you open yourself up, then you're going to start getting a feel for, well, why am I here this time? What's the intention that I have for my advancement, for my awakening? What am I here with others, and what are we together here hoping to accomplish in our own advancement, in what we as a growing, unified group of beings want to have as a civilization that represents who we are. Now, of course, one of my favorite of all, of which I visit as often as I can, is the Mayan civilization. Fortunately, they weren't here that long ago, only thousands of years, and their actual structures still are in existence. As a matter of fact, Mayan pyramids, temples, exist in many different places throughout the world, not just Central America. As a matter of fact, if you go to Java, you're going to find a temple there that has an exact duplicate in Guatemala near the ruins of Tikal. That is the Mayan ruin. Now, the Mayans, they're amazing people. They were brilliant astronomers, which just rings the vibrations in me quite well. They were also mathematicians And their early cities lived in an agrarian harmony with the earth. While not all of this is left and some of the codes are still being deciphered, it is shown that they definitely had connections with China in their trade. And this is ancient China, Han China. It is also reported in many of these ancient civilizations that the people had the capacity of traveling in vehicles that would take them through the air. And they were anti-gravitational vehicles. Get a feel for this because you see, as we begin to project ourselves into our future, based upon who we see ourselves and choose to become, we can then open ourselves up to what we have access to so far as past technology. And we can bring it forward with a developing sense of purpose that seems to be growing stronger and stronger now, and that is living the frequencies of love, of harmony, of peace. That being the basis for our grounding into the vibrational field of our future. So that then we bring this forth as an intention for the use of the technologies that we will have access to. Now, please don't misunderstand me. I'm not limiting it just to the technology we have now because you see, many different technologies have already been discovered but are being held back. And they're being deliberately held back so that the industries of the world now can continue to make a living off of us. So if you look at this, you begin to see there has to be some definite changes take place with us. We need to stop being so fearful and in our fear, letting greed dominate our choice making. Instead of being so fearful that we allow ourselves to become subject to others who intimidate us. Now, while these things I'm bringing to your attention, let yourself still stay tapped into the vibrational fields of this capacity of ours that we haven't fully fathomed, nor have we even come close to developing to where at will we're able to engage in it. But I'll mention it to you in another phrasing. Time travel. That we can become much better at this, much more adept. And in our developing this adeptness, we can then begin to, with this raised intentional rate of vibration of living love, then move into different fields and find that we are completely safe in doing so. The last time that I was in the Yucatan, I went and visited a particular location that I have an affinity for. And it is the observatory in Old Chichen Itza. It is the observatory where they used to, the astronomers, especially have certain portals that they would view Venus and the sun and the moon from. I would go up into this structure that is starting to come apart, and I would sit down with this bowl right here, and I would purposefully, with intention, tune into the frequencies of what existed before the Mayans came, what they generated and brought forth when they actually lived there. And then I would open myself up to draw you into this experience so that then we could together all be receptive to the past. But that isn't where I stopped, you see. Because I also brought into our future that wherever it is that we are going, whatever it is that we are choosing, we could all be in the experience together and profit from it. So, with your permission, I'm going to bring this into a place of unity right now. With all the different things that we've brought up and just barely touched upon, but enough to allow the vibrational field of these different civilizations to be part of what we experience here now at this solstice time. Past and past. Present and future. For who you were, for who you are, and for who you are becoming. Tying into the wisdom of the ages, the universal laws that we are awakening to. And our intentions to become the beings of love and light that best represent our true nature for the harmony and well-being of humankind, entering into a place of unity. Thank you for your attention. For more information about the Metaphysical Church of Enlightenment or the Rodin Foundation, please go to our website at www.rodin.org. If you have been inspired by the revelations shared in these podcasts, please donate to the Rodin Foundation's ongoing efforts to help others help themselves at www.rodin.org/donate.